Hi, my name is Keith Moore with UPtown Smoke Shop in Nashville, Tennessee. I have the great privilege to bring to you a video I shot recently when I spent 8 days in Denmark and Sweden with Lars Iversen, Jes Konowitz, Per Hansen and Ulf Natsmar of Esbon, and Bo Nord. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go to Copenhagen. Copenhagen is a magnificent old city which still welcomes the first-time visitor with a youthful spirit and a high heart. I hope I'll always be able to capture the essence of that first day in Copenhagen, the cobblestones underfoot, the statues, cathedrals towering overhead, the soft tones and rhythms of the Danish language, and water everywhere. As thrilled as I was to be in Copenhagen, I was even more excited about the purpose of my trip, to meet and interview the Danish masters of pipe making. The Denmark I was here to explore began on the banks of the fjord with Lars Iversen. The home of Lars Iversen is nestled just off the shore of the Baltic. The sea, the ships, and the Black Forest are his inspirations. He takes long walks with his dogs TK and Trim. As he walks, his gaze falls on branches and broken logs, and sometimes from these relaxing walks, smoking his pipe, he's inspired to make one. And these pipes are the most treasured and desired by collectors all over the world. Lars is the son of the great Sixten Iversen, the man many call the greatest carver of the 20th century. At age 14, he started working in his father's shop. To Lars, making pipes was a natural occurrence.
Somehow I started learning this trade simultaneously with learning to write. See, my father had a workshop and was at that time also repairing pipes. So it was a nice place to earn a little extra money. At the age of 12, I was making mouthpieces, broken plugs, cleaning pipes, and then it's developed. And I think professionally, I must have been about 16 years old when I sold the first pipes. Through my father, of course, and through his contacts. So I had an early start. Now I'm 52, so you can make a calculation yourself. If you have a slight natural born talent, I think that's essential. Give the boy a piece of wood and a knife and leave him alone. And then, if you pass the test, then there's something to build on. Obviously I did. But the inspiration, of course, seeing my father's shapes, that's all I knew, because not all I knew, I could see the difference from the pipes I was repairing to the pipes my father made. And they were actually ready made. And the finish was perfect, and every mouthpiece fitted, and all borings aligned, and so there was a difference, and of course it influences a boy. Now traditionally, Corsican briar is considered the best, but maybe it's not so, but the percentage of good briar is higher in Corsica than they are in other places, probably because of the climate or something like that. In Iceland, they have a big tradition with horses, And an old Iceland saying is, a good horse has no color. I think you can use the same on briar. A good piece of briar has no nationality. But again, probably the percentage of good briar is higher in Corsica than any other place.
I'll take this bark. I found it a couple of days ago, and it's kind of challenged because that's a good piece of wood around here. But I think I can get around that. I just made a few marks on the block to show the direction of the grain. And that's all, folks. Next step is boring the tobacco hole and then finishing the shape of the bowl.
First I start with, this is 13mm board. Measure the depth. This is just to center the hole so the bigger bore can catch. Right? I can show you the difference between sandblasted straight grain and a sandblasted bird's eye pipe. The grain on the side of this pipe matches the grain of the bottom of this pipe, because when I hold it like this, the direction of the grain is the same. So that's why the straight grain got those waves around after sandblasting. And that's actually the year ring. Every year it puts on one layer of wood. And that's what you see here in the straight grain pipe. This pipe was inspired by an order I got from UPtown pipe smoke shop. But I couldn't find the right wood for that. But it's a pipe with the same basic idea, but it's much more bent. So someday I'll find the right piece of briar for the order pipe. But that's what I have in the meantime. This is the bark of the wood, the residue parts of that. And when I polish, the wax goes in there like wax dust. And it looks white and grey. So I just melt the wax with this hot air gun. Very often I use bamboo as a shank. It's a very good thing both for the customer and for the pipe maker. From the pipe maker's point of view, you can replace a broken shank. And for the pipe smoker, you save a lot of weight on the pipe. Also, it's a very absorbent material, so it will create a very dry smoking pipe. And here we have the vulcanite used for the mouthpiece. There are several reasons for making the mouthpiece totally by yourself. instead of starting with the pre-fabricated ones. You always have the mouthpiece that fits the pipe when you're making yourself. Beside that, this material is better because of the molding technique. So for every reason I make the mouthpieces myself. This is cut specially for Danish pipe makers. Well, the start of this cutting was for Danish pipe makers because it was very big fashion at one time to leave a rough top on the pipe. So it was sought after, and we had it made especially in Corsica with this kind of cutting. A lot of the workable pipes are made with a knife, where you can't go with a grinding disc. It's a pointed thing. You can go in everywhere. I like to make this rounding between the bowl and shank. It's excellent for that. So that's a very useful tool. And I have several different knives that all have each a purpose. You know, making pipes, of course, it's my living bread, but things like that is not possible to make just for money. So the appreciation that's shown to me by American customers means a great deal to me. Well, thank you very much.
Jes Konovitz lives outside Copenhagen, in a quiet, rural village. Here, in the one-man workshop behind his farmhouse, Jes creates 200 to 250 exquisite pipes each year.
Some of the pipes are very old. They are maybe up to 25, 30 years. But the one I'm smoking right now, they have become smaller, the head, because I prefer a smaller pipe. And that's something that I have been made for the last 10 years.
How long have you been smoking a pipe?
Since I was 18, so that's 32 years ago.
And when did you start making pipes?
Around the same time, 18 to 19 years, I was starting to make them.
And why do you make pipes, Jes?
Yes, that's a really good question. I don't know, mostly of it happened by accident because I was sure that I was going to become a vet. And then I started to read, and after the first year we had 3-month summer vacation. And then I should find a job for maybe 2 months, and then I would go traveling around in Europe until we had to start reading the next semester. And I asked a friend of my father, who was a pipe maker, and make pipe to his shop in Copenhagen. And I asked him if he could use a hand for 2 months so I could try to help him or try to learn something, and he said okay. And I started with him, and that was the beginning. I never went back to school. So that was the first time I tried to work with my hands. The first pipes I made was after I made an agreement with Paul Rasmussen in Copenhagen, one of the first pipe makers. And in the beginning, or maybe the whole first year, I didn't make one pipe, I only made repairing for him. That means I put on new mouthpieces, learned how to polish mouthpieces, learned how to clean pipes, learned a lot of technical things that is very important for your daily use of the machinery, that you get the handicraft of it and you put it into your hand. And I think it took over a year before I was allowed to try to use the machinery for making my own pipes. He was a strange person because he never said anything. He just took my pipe, have a look at it and said no, and then he went over to the sanding wheel, and then he changed it and said it must end up like this. He didn't tell me the way how to come to that point, but I could see when he had shown it to me that the shape was much better. And that means I only have to open my eyes and look at exactly what he was doing all the time. And then in the end you see how he does it the way that he wanted it. And so you learn to make it exactly the